Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a Sonic Dark Sentinel build that I made. So just want to quickly go through it and talk about a couple things that I think deserve a little bit of explaining. This build is kind of strange, I think, compared to other builds with the goals that I had for the build. I don't often make Sentinels, so it's a fun build. It was a fun build to make because it's just something I'm not used to making. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Off the bat, just most of the basic things about the build to take care of them right away. We took hasten. We have leaping. We took this to fix the knockback issue. So we have acrobatics. This is not needed. This is not something I'd recommend to anybody for Dark. There's a lot of other ways to fix knockback. It's just that with Sonic, you have so many slots because you don't take too many powers, which is really uncommon. That's one of the reasons that Sonic is such an amazing primary. So I had so many slots. So as you can see, I have a lot of pool powers. So I had the power slots to take it. So that's how I fixed it. We took fighting. Tough is awesome for Dark Sentinels, I found when making this build, because you're going to be a little bit short on the smashing and lethal resist, so it's just nice to have a little bit of extra. And of course, it's amazing because one of the best sets, or I guess one of the most important sets to the build, is of course Unbreakable Guard for that 2-set bonus enhancement endurance discount. 2.5% endurance discount is incredible if you stack this enough times. So we have 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute, where's the 4? 4, yeah, with tough. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's nice to have 5. So I actually got my 5th one from the new Cupid's Crush set bonus. Has the same thing for 2, which I did not realize first time looking at this. And also I didn't remember there being that recharge time bonus. This is actually an incredible set. A very, very good set to have. I haven't been playing since this has come out, but I imagine this would be worth something on the auction house. I guess depending on how easy it is to get. So, okay. So yeah, that's a huge part of this build. That gives 10% endurance discount with that. And we also have some more built in with our reactive defenses set, which gives an extra 3.75% endurance discount. And is there anything else? I think that's it for these up here. We also ended up taking support. I know incarnates are way later, but this gives another 10% passive endurance discount. So you end up being at like 23.75% endurance discount. Unfortunately, that is not something that you can see in mids, I guess. Oh yeah, you can right here. Oh, that's without support. Oh, I'm wrong. There's something else that's giving us even a little extra endurance discount somewhere. Let's see if I can find what that would be. Endurance discount. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Nope. Strange. I do not know. That's unaccounted for. 3%. There's 3% extra. I'm not sure what that's from. Anyways, so as you can see, 26%. That is insane. So that is how we fix the endurance issues for this build. Also, there's a nice trick for Dark. This is how it works, at least for all the other Dark armor sets in the game. Sentinels tend to have some strange properties to their powers where they change some stuff where it's not the same. And this power in particular even has a different name, so it's possible this is not the case. I haven't actually tested this ability myself. It's complicated here for me because it says it's a PBAOE minor damage. So I'd assume that you get extra, or this applies to multiple enemies. If this does apply to multiple enemies, this ability, how it does for the Dark armor sets, typically you put a Theft of Essence, chance for endurance, in here, and it becomes this totally different ability where when you use it, it just gives you all of your endurance back every time, kind of like a ageless. So I'm not sure if that's the way this works, if this is being checked as an AoE, which would be much preferred, or if it's single target, because in the ability it says you drain small amount of life essence from a nearby enemy. And in game, it does say AoE, but only one target max. So I'm not sure how that works, how it is an AoE and one target max. The only thing I can think of is that what they're trying to say is you get the buff from the regen and the recovery, which is crazy big. You get a lot for one target. That is one target max, but the damage dealt is AoE. But the question is, will this set bonus proc or not for the damage? I would guess yes, and that's why I put it in the build, but I'm not totally sure. So that's a huge part of this build is you have to be using this ability all the time. It's just how they built it on the Sentinel. So if we take a look at it here, actually, we'll take a look at it in mid so you can see the difference. This is what your endurance and regeneration is without having obscure sustenance up. And this is what it looks like when you turn it on. The regeneration more than doubles, and the endurance recovery increases significantly as well, almost doubles. So this is huge. This has to be up all the time. It has a 60-second duration with a 50-second recharge, so this should be no issue to have this up. Based on how powerful these numbers are, my guess is that this doesn't stack, because if this did stack, I mean, this ability would just be the most busted ability in the game. You would have like capped endurance, and just crazy regeneration. Even with just the one stack, it's already insane. So you basically want to have this ability up all the time. And the nice thing is it has this little failsafe built in where if you forget to use it and you happen to run really low on endurance, you can hit this and it'll give you all your endurance back. And on top of that, I also took ageless in this build. This is the debuff side. You don't need the recovery side because endurance is so set, but it's just a little extra oh shit button to push. So you have two of those for your endurance bar. This build should have no endurance problems at all. It's totally fixed, which means we got to pick something else for alpha, which is spiritual, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so all of this is pretty standard. We're building for recharge in this build as well because we want to have a lot of recharge on our Screech, on Howl, and of course, I mean, Knockout Blow, which is a huge part of the build. That's really, really fun, really high damaging ability. And it has 2 purple procs built in. This is just the way to build this attack. Hands down, this is the best for pretty much every AT. This is the strongest single target attack in the game because it has the hold component. And because it has hold component and you can slot it for hold, then you can put the unbreakable constraint, and that in a Hecatomb is just really powerful. So it just really beefs the damage up. So this is just such a great attack. The recharge is really slow generally, which helps the procs happen more. But I mean, they'll happen regardless because the cast time is also really slow, 2.23. So the procs happen pretty much every time. It's just, you just want to hit the ability more because it's so great. And that's why we built a lot of recharge into this build. I wouldn't say it's an incredible amount of recharge, but it's definitely higher than your average build, sitting at about a little bit over 170. So pretty decent recharge in the build. When I was thinking about goals for the build, one of the things that I thought would be really cool is to have it be kind of a stun build, because Sonic does not really do much damage. For pretty much every AT, the damage is just mediocre compared to the other sets that you can choose. But the thing it does have is the really awesome resistance debuff, which probably makes it like, I mean, it's got to be one of the best Sentinel Sentinel power sets that you can pick in the game. It's better on ATs that do less damage, so you wouldn't want to take Sonic on a blaster. It's the best on a defender. Corruptors are pretty good. I'd imagine Sentinels are somewhere in between, but definitely a contention for being one of the better sets for Sentinels in general. So really great set, and it's awesome because you don't have to take many of the abilities because of how they reworked it. Shout is probably, I mean, these two are really bad because they don't even give the resist debuff, so you pretty much never want to take Shockwave or Siren Song. Between Scream and Shout, if you had to pick one, Scream is actually a lot better. Shout is a terrible ability because it's such a slow cast time at 2 seconds, and it does the same amount of resistance debuff, which is the whole point of the attack, compared to Scream, which has like half a second less activation time. It just becomes way better. And if you look at the damage difference, this does 54, Shout does 64, so it does do a little bit more damage, but because it's just so much slower, I would take Scream. But even better than the two of them is Shriek. Shriek is awesome because it has 1 second activation time, and you just want to hit your abilities quickly for a Sonic build because you're just going for this, the resistance debuff. And the quicker you can get this resistance debuff up, the better. So that's why Shriek is the best. Howl is awesome. You want to use it all the time. Even sometimes in single target situations, if you run out of an ability to use, this one is a great one to use. It basically replaces our Scream or Shout. And with the amount of recharge we have in this build, these 3 abilities, you just use them boom, 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 boom the whole time. Or sorry, Shriek, Howl, Screech. Not in that order though. You always want to use Screech first, because now check out the damage difference between Screech, which does 92, versus, we'll look at the next best, Shout, 64. That's how much better, an extra 50% increase from the second highest DPA single target to the first. So Screech is amazing. It does the most single target damage in the set, and it has the stun component. So I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, this is just, when they did this revamp, that's what they did. Screech used to do no damage, and it was still great because it had the stun. Now that it does this much damage, it's a no-brainer. Screech is just the best ability in the set, and it has the stun. So that combination, making it your highest single target ability and a stun, is really great because it means you just want to use this all the time, and you'll just keep stunning your opponent. So it's the only other stun you have besides, I think, Dreadful Whale. Yep, Dreadful Whale also has a stun. None of the other abilities stack with stuns, but if you use Dreadful Whale, Screech, and also Oppressive Gloom, which we built in, then, you know, they're pretty much stunned. And the thing is you can just stack Screeches on the target, and eventually when you hit like 4 stacks, it's like 12 magnitude stun. I mean, like nothing can resist that at a certain point. I mean, of course, you know, Statesman or anybody who has up Unstoppable, you know, they're not going to be stopped. But any like AVs, while they don't have their purple triangles up, they're going to be stunned. So really, really cool. And bosses in missions, easily stunned. So you kind of like you have a little bit of, I mean, a pretty good amount of CC built in to the build. So I think that's what's really fun about this build. It's kind of like, you know, decent damage. It's not going to do a lot of damage because it's a Sentinel and you're taking Sonic. So damage isn't the focus, but, you know, some damage, especially with Dreadful Whale and Knockout Blow, of course. But you do the debuffs with the minus resistance and you stun. And I just think that's just kind of I think this is a nice choice for Sentinel. I think this is like one of my favorite Sentinel builds that I've seen. Yeah, so pretty cool build. Other things to note about this build. So as you can see, you know, I did all the Lux of the Gamblers, so there's tons of recharge built in. But I want to talk about Soul Transfer for a second. The Absolute Amazement was partly for the set bonus and also because this ability is crazy. There is nothing like this in the game that I know of. It has a 30 magnitude stun. 30 magnitude. That has it. I mean, that might stun through what's it called? not unbreakable, whatever the tier 9 invincibility power is. Like Statesman, people could get stunned by this. It's pretty much any target will be stunned that I can think of. So this is just really, really fun to, if you die, you can just stun anything and everything around you. It's a really fun power in AE missions because you could be like a tank who's never been stunned before, and if there's an AE enemy that has soul transfer, you will be stunned. So that's actually how I learned about how broken this ability is. So that's why that's built in there. It also has a lot of recharge built in as well, so you can use it more often. You don't really need heal or accuracy. I don't think it has a hit check. So I mean, in fact, I'm pretty positive it does not. So yeah, that's what that is. And then also it's nice to have the set bonuses. Fire is really high, recovery is really high, and accuracy is always good. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this build. A lot of this was just saving slots. Like I saved slots here. With health, normally I'd have like that extra slot there. You don't really need the extra regen, but I guess since you have so much from this, it's kind of nice to stack. But I didn't really build into regen as far as like, you know, putting 3 Numinas in here and 3 Numinas in health or anything like that. So yeah. Oh, I didn't talk about incarnates, so I'll actually just end with that. So for the incarnates, when I talked about support, I talked about ageless. Yeah, there's kind of nothing else to take for ageless. Or sorry, for destiny. I mean, you could take barrier. That's fine. It's not going to be that crazy for you, but you could. You don't need clarion really. Rebirth, I think, might be the next best option. I would take the regen. That could be kind of fun. But, I mean, we have a lot of regen in the build, and we have the self-heal, so I just don't think it's really worth it. So the defense, or the debuff resistance side of Ageless is one that's commonly not taken, and it's amazing. If you use this in missions, teams will succeed, and most of the time people don't know why, but it's because somebody has this Ageless. Especially if you're fighting like Banished Pantheon or Malta. Malta sappers can't do anything to you anymore when you have that up, so it's really great on teams. And lastly, what I picked for Alpha. So I was looking around on Alpha for things that increased stun duration, and I knew that Spiritual was one of them. The only other option was Resilient, I think. No, there was one other, but neither of them were really good. So I really wanted to build into stun. I think you don't really need cardiac because we have so much endurance reduction on the build, and it was fixed through sets. You could go musculature. That's probably your next best bet. But I think spiritual is better because the stun, it just takes it to a whole nother level when you have spiritual. And the recharge rate, of course, is amazing. Mostly for knockout blow, soul transfer, and dreadful wail, which you want to be using all the time. These abilities are just amazing. Soul transfer, I mean, just die so you can use it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, it's just really fun. And obscure sustenance, it also helps keep that up. Hasten, I did have it 2 slotted. You could 1 slot it technically if you're only doing 50 content with the character. You could move the slot anywhere. I mean, you could put it here and get a little bit extra regeneration. Yeah, I mean, you could pretty much put it anywhere and that would be fine. Honestly, another option is you could put it in Super Jump and get the other Winner's Attune. I think that could be kind of good, but not really necessary. So, I mean, I kind of just left it in Hasten in case you ever want to go down and do low-level content. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything I want to say about this build, so I'm going to end the video there.